So quite a few ladies have been leaving comments that, men need sex more than women or women can do without sex. And I don't feel that way, but I understand why some women feel that way. And I knew a woman some time ago who said that she wishes there was no such thing as sex. She'd been married several decades to her husband. And when I talked to her further, I realized that he never kissed her. He was very gropey and quick in bed, not sensual at all. And so she didn't like the sex she was having. And because she'd been with him since she was in high school, she had no idea that sex could be good. I don't think she'd ever felt turned on or aroused or enjoyed sex ever. So when women don't enjoy sex, I think that either they were sexually abused as children, they were sexually shamed, or the men they're having sex with are just brutes and Neanderthals in bed. If you've had good sex, it's like having good food. Bad sex is like eating raw worms. It's just disgusting. Imagine guys, guys don't know what bad sex is. Imagine some um, stinky, fat woman who hasn't showered in weeks. That's all you can have sex with. And she poops on you while you have sex. You would be grossed out too. There's a gross factor. And for women, the gross factor is not as high, but you can be too gropey, you can be too quick, you can be inattentive, you can be not sensual enough, not connected enough. There's so many ways you can ruin it. Now, a lot of times, if I've talked to Indian men or my friends who have Indian clients, a lot of Indian women, Asian Indian women, are raised extremely strict sexually, and they won't have sex at all, or they will have no oral. You cannot go down on her. She will not give you a blowjob. Some women in their 50s who were raised religiously will not give blowjobs. And that's all what they were taught. So these women don't enjoy sex because they were told it's nasty and it's dirty and it's germophobic. So that's their belief system. Other women were sexually abused. I can't blame them for not wanting to have sex. It would take a lot of many years of deep trauma work to get over that, and a lot of them don't even want to deal with that. They would rather just go without it. And for those women, it's better to be with a man who's asexual or who was also sexually abused and doesn't want sex. And that way they can have a relationship based on friendship without bringing up all that trauma. But if you want to work on it, you can. And then, so those are the three cases. You were sexually abused, you physically, you were sexually abused spiritually by being told it's bad and nasty, and you were sexually abused by the men you were with because they were Neanderthals in bed and you didn't know any better. But I tell you this, if you've ever had really good sex, oh my God, there's nothing like it when time stands still and you're so turned on and you feel all this passion. And I haven't even had the best sex that's possible because that's only possible like in a good relationship. And in my last relationship, my marriage, the sex was pretty bad, but I have experienced being really turned on and I do enjoy sex. And I've learned what I like and what I don't like. And I tell men now that I'm with what I need and what I like and what I don't like. And to my surprise, they all want to know what I like, which is weird. It took me years to figure out. They want to know what I like. Turns them on because then they don't have to guess. And they turned on by a woman who knows what she likes. But I suppose there are men who get annoyed or mad or don't care. And my ex-husband didn't care. He didn't care. So, it's a good thing I left him. If you're not having, if a woman doesn't want sex, she has a good reason. That's what I want to say. She has an absolutely good reason. You got to honor that reason. You have a reason. Because naturally people will want it. It's just part of our human nature to varying degrees. Some people want it more than others. People like it different ways, different frequencies. But if you don't like it at all, if it's painful, if it's repulsive, you have a good reason. The reason could be your past sexual history that you've never enjoyed it. You don't even know what you like. Or it could be the person you're with. I mean, honestly, like being around kids, that's a big cock block for me. When I'm around kids, I'm in mothering mode, all my sexual energy is turned off. If I'm around, and I've talked to women who were married to guys that they were not attracted to, so that we turn off our sexual energy when we don't feel free to open it up. But when I feel free to open it up, when I'm alone in a very sensual space, then it just comes out and I feel it. But oftentimes, and I don't think women realize how they turn it off. Ladies, another thing you often do is you turn it off, not even knowing, because of your environment. Okay, maybe the man you're with, he's too gropey, or your kids are around, or you have family living with you, you don't have privacy, or you don't like your body, so you shut it off. So that's a huge thing I discovered for myself. Or men were touching me in a way that they thought I liked, but I didn't like. I didn't say anything, so it got shut off. So we can shut it off ourselves by not speaking up, by not having a safe, quiet space. And I always tell guys, get your wife away from the house and the kids, because being around kids is a big cock blocker for women, not for guys. So ladies, if you don't like sex, I'm going to just invite you to be okay with that and figure out why, because there's a reason. Something happened. And you don't have to look into it or dig into it or change it. However, I think you'll gain some power and some knowledge if you just get curious about what happened that had you like be turned off by it or repulsed by it. There was a lady who left a comment that broke my heart just a few days ago. Said she hates groomers. She wished that such thing had never happened. So yeah, if you were groomed, violated, that is a huge freaking trauma to your body. That is a huge, huge trauma. It's all, everything's going to shut down. The other thing that women do who were sexually abused, they go the opposite way and they think all they are worthy is sex. They become super promiscuous. That can also go that way. But but um, that's all reenacting their trauma. Or women who are really loose and go around hooking up with everyone, they feel like, well, I was abused, but now I'm going to abuse the men. I'm going to use the men, is what they think. And that way they can reenact their trauma, but on their own terms. But it's not fulfilling. People can get over this with a lot of therapy. You have to, I don't know what all the therapy is. You have to do like probably some inpatient deep therapy that's several months long, where you can be, what is that place? Harmony Place. I would look into that place, Harmony Place. I'm not going to recommend them, but I've watched their videos. It's a couple, and I've watched a lot of their videos. They seem pretty good. They talk about the parts work. That's where I first got familiar with the parts work, is listening to their videos. And they do inpatient for several months, so that you have people continuously working on these things, and with all kinds of facets, all kind of facilitators. That's what it takes. It's a huge, huge trauma and violation to the system. Anyone who was sexually abused, I wouldn't want sex either. And there's been a lot of sexual violation from light to very severe. So, and a lot of women don't even know what they like, so they don't speak up when something doesn't feel good. I can't tell you how many times guys will just grope my pussy. I'm like, don't grope my pussy. That's kind of lame. No woman likes that. I try to be nicer. It's like, touch me here instead. But I have to teach a lot of guys. They don't know. I have to teach a lot of guys. They don't know. So that's why I make these videos, to teach you, because you don't know. Some of you don't know. Some of you do know. But yeah, the guys that know, they're great in bed. But the problem is, a lot of the guys are great in bed. They're losers in other areas of their life. So don't ever fall for a guy just because he's good in bed, because some of these guys are avoidance, emotionally avoidant. But I don't agree that men enjoy sex more. Women can actually enjoy it more. We can have many more types of orgasms. We have many more erogenous zones. Some women can have multiple orgasms, so many different kinds of orgasms. We're just more capable of being a lot more turned on than a man is. See, men are very simple. Their dick gets hard to anything. They'll fuck and they're happy. But we have this intense, deep emotional connection. Our emotional connection to the man facilitates and magnifies our arousal immensely. If you've ever been really turned on to your clitoris is so swollen that your vulva is like swollen. If you've never had that, it's because you've never been fucked well. It's hard to be fucked well. It's been very few times in my life that I've been fucked well. I'm 62. The number of times I've been fucked well that I remember is less than 10. Okay? Because most men are just so bad in bed, or I don't have the relationship with them that I need to be really turned on. So I don't blame for women for not liking it. It just takes a lot more of a connection, of a relationship. So that's the other part I didn't mention, is that a guy who doesn't know what he's doing in bed, I put that in the beginning under the guise of Neanderthal. If you're not getting your woman that turned on to where she's like begging for more, you're a Neanderthal in bed. Or you're with a woman who has got sexual issues. And guys, if you like sex, don't marry a woman who has not resolved her sexual trauma. You gotta, it's not gonna, it's the most sex you'll ever get is at the beginning. And after you're married for a while, it's gonna cut down to 10%. So just be aware of that. And ladies, if sex is important to you, don't be with a guy who's a Neanderthal in bed, because people don't change like that. They don't. They stay the same. Some people grow, but the growth is often not that much. And the only times they really grow is when they get divorced, when they're in deep pain over a relationship, or losing all their money, or one of their kids dies. That's when people change. They don't just go through a relationship and start changing and making big changes. And I talk to guys and they tell me they're not having sex. I'm like, was she ever into it? They're always like, no. Come to think of it, the light bulb goes on, like, no. And I don't blame women for not wanting it. Some of the women who don't want it have never had good sex. So if they have good sex, they'll like it. But if you give a woman good sex and she's still not interested, and you like sex, I wouldn't go with a woman like that. If you're a woman who likes sex, I wouldn't go with a guy who gives you quickies or doesn't turn you on. If you want a good relationship, that is. There's nothing better than good sex, but good sex is really hard to find. And that's when I wrote my book, The Fuck List. I'm like, why is it so hard to find good sex? And sometimes a guy would be really good in bed once, and then the next time he would be a dud and selfish. I'm like, what is up with that? But it takes energy for a guy to put into the woman. He's got to be rested. He's got to want to put that energy into her, that attention, that focus. He's got to have good cock control and good physical health and emotional availability, even leading up to and after the sex. Because if you just fuck a woman then leave her, she's not going to trust you enough to open her body fully. Ladies, in order for us to really enjoy sex, the men have to open our hearts, and that's not just done by writing some flowery words. They have to show up. If you text him something, like today, a past client I had texted me to ask me a question, so I left him a voice reply to answer his question, and because he still has my number, and apparently he was at work, so he texted me back. He said, I'll listen to this message when I get home. And that made me feel really good. I'm like, that's a solid guy. And this is a young guy in his 20s. I'm like, this is a solid guy, because most guys would just get the message and just look at and think, I'm going to look at this when I get home, and never tell me. But he acknowledged getting it and that he was going to listen to it later. And that raised him in my eyes. That's the kind of thing that it seems like a little thing, but it was a big thing, because I felt this ease in my heart. Now, I'm not interested in this guy, obviously, and he's way too young, but the way that those are the kinds of things that open a woman's heart, that make us feel you're there. Then later after he listened to it, he thanked me for it. So this guy, that's why I replied to him, because usually I don't reply to past clients. I ignore them because I don't like freeloaders. But he's always shown up. He always kept his appointments. He was always on point. He was always on time. This is a guy who's a successful professional. So how you show up, because there's a client in his 20s that I dated briefly or hooked up with, and he was that way too. He was a Marine in his 20s, and he showed up like that. He would book our dates, like, I'm not talking about appointments, I'm talking about dates, like a week in advance. And I never felt this feeling of feeling like needy or something. Never came up because he showed up. And I realized when I feel needy or anxious about a guy, it's because they're blowing me off. I can feel it. So with this guy, he would always, hey, Shahrazad, next Saturday, I'm going to come over at 7. We're going to watch a movie or whatever. And sometimes he would come over just to watch a movie. He didn't even want to have sex. And that one time he came over, that made me bond with him more. And that one time he came over and he goes, I was really tired. I worked all day, because he got up at 5. He had a really hard day running in the heat with the backpack. I was really tired, but I came anyway because I told you I would. And it was still a half-hour drive. It was nighttime. He was tired, but he kept his word. See, those things like that open our heart and make us trust the guy. And I ended up having really good sex with the guy. He had a huge penis. And when he was a client, his penis hurt me. It was so big. But because of the things that he did that made me trust him, the next time we had sex, my body was so open and ready for him. And I didn't have feelings for him or anything, but I felt safe, and because he showed up. So see, guys and ladies, I think you can relate to this. In fact, that one time he came over, we went in the bedroom. I had sex with him in the dark, which was huge. I hadn't had sex in the dark with a guy in years. I want the lights on just because I can see our bodies, but also I feel safer. Like being in the dark with some guy, and I'm like, I'm in the dark with this guy. And he's doing me in a reverse position. Usually that hurts my cervix, because I was so trusting with just those few little things. Okay? So that's the difference it makes, the kind of man that we're with. And a lot of women who don't like sex is because the guy is not giving them that feeling of safety, of showing up. Nagging for sex is disgusting. If you're stinky or you're gropey or you're gross. I remember when my ex-husband gained a few pounds, I didn't want to fuck him. I kept saying, you gained a few pounds. I was trying to give him hints, and he's like, oh, they just make the pants a little tighter now. But I was not turned on anymore. Guys, it's not just about your dick. So ladies, I'm just inviting you. I gave those emotional examples. I don't usually give these examples. I wasn't trying to expose any guys, but to give you ladies an idea of what I need to feel safe and really turned on that happens outside the bedroom. And that's even in a real relationship, it would be magnified 1,000-fold with the flirting and the guy being there for me and caring about me, all those things. If you ever see a woman that says, I'm so happy in my relationship, that's because of all those kinds of things he's doing that add up over and over and over, and that make her very receptive to having sex. Unless, of course, she was sexually abused or has some kind of health issues or religious shaming, because that's huge too. So I'm telling you all that for ladies so you can think about, if you don't like sex, there's a good reason for it. You may have been with guys who were brutes, or you had, a negative upbringing around your sexuality, or worse, you were molested. So this one is for the ladies. And guys, you can learn from this too. That's all I want to say. Have a good night.